I'm on my way to the airport.
Okay.
My apologies. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Morning, Chairperson. I'm basically, well, it's the department that will be reporting, led by the Director General. So I'm here to assist, but it's effectively their reports. So I'll hand over to the DG. Just to say that at, I think it's about 11:45, I need to step out to attend a farewell for the members of the Information Regulator. So I'll just be briefly out of the meeting at that point. I'm attending virtually. Thanks, Chairperson, but if I can hand over to the DG to introduce the officials from the department that are here and to start the presentations. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much. DG, welcome. DG Mashabane.
Good morning, Chair and honorable members. I think we're muted. Can the Chair hear us from this side?
Yes, we can.
Thank you, Chair. May we proceed?
Yes, you can proceed.
Thank you very much, Chair. Here in Pretoria, I'm joined by the colleagues from the senior management of the department, the members of the executive committee of the department as the deputies, together with the chief directors, and the other colleagues will be joining us from another room as well to participate in this session. And honorable members, we thank you very much for this opportunity that you've given us to present the annual.
There's a lot of echo from your room. Yes, it's quiet now.
Thank you very much, Chair. They're taking care of it. I think the echo is from the volume somewhere. Thank you, Chair. I hope it's better now.
Yes, it's better.
Thank you, Chair. I was saying we want to thank you and on behalf of the senior management of the department, to thank the Minister and the Deputy Minister for the executive oversight and support that they continue to provide to us as the senior management of the department. I'm joined today by the senior members of the department, the Deputies Director General, the Chief Directors, and the Directors in Head Office. But we equally have colleagues who are in senior management who are joining us from across the country in the different provinces. And that will be the heads of our regional offices that are based in the 9 provinces, as well as the heads of state attorneys, the masters of the High Court, as well as the principal family advocates who are also based in the different provinces in our courts. We present here the 2020-2021 annual report. And maybe briefly, as the chair and the honorable members are aware, I joined and was appointed as the administrative head of the department, and I started on the 1st of March, 2021. So basically that was the last month of the reporting cycle that we are currently reporting. Now, the report that we'll present to you, Chair, based on the performance of 2020 and 2021, will be compared to the previous years, as have already been reflected, I think even in the overview by the Minister, that for the past 3 to 5 performance cycles, the department had experienced some challenges. So it will be against that backdrop that in the past few years, we have had a challenge of declining performance and audit findings on our finances. So when we present that report, it will give a picture of what has occurred in the reporting period in terms of the efforts to improve our performance, but also to deal with issues that have affected the outcomes of our auditing. But I thought I should briefly just reflect some of the challenges that we continue to experience even in the current financial year, which my colleague, as well as the reports, he will try to reflect on as part of the continuation from the previous year. One, which is known by everyone all over the country, our ICT is a big challenge. We have an infrastructure that is no longer fit for purpose in terms of ICT. Basically, before even the ransomware, even before we expressed the ransomware, we had a report that showed that it was going to be a matter of time that we experienced the challenges, because the systems that we're using, some of it still outdated. And part of the challenge as well was compounded by the fact that we didn't have an approved structure that has permanent employees responsible for ICT. So as a result, in the main, the people that were managing the ICT of the department were contract employees. And some of them had to be released sometimes at the beginning of this financial year. And I think we depended mainly on contractors appointed on the basis of tenders to basically run our infrastructure capacity. So we had started with programs and processes to rebuild or to build or modernize our ICT. However, we're unfortunate that the ransomware attack happened. But looking at what has happened in the past 7 weeks of the time that we've been offline, it is clear that it was going to be a matter of when was that going to happen. So the approach that we're taking now is that we have completely been wiped off in terms of the system, even though we're back online. But in terms of the vulnerabilities and the fault lines that the attack has exposed, it is clear that we have to talk about a rebuilding from the ground. So we take an analogy of a building that has been bombed, that you cannot repair it. You have to start removing the rubble and dig a new foundation. So Chair, this is where we are. We are back online to a certain extent, more than 90% functionality. But the reality is that the vulnerabilities that have been exposed suggest that you can't rebuild on it. You can't repair. You have to have a program that rebuilds the entire system. That's one. Two, the major challenge was that we didn't have business continuity plans. That in case of an attack like the one we experienced, what were we going to do? It is for that reason that you will have seen, and some of you will have received complaints from the members of the public about our services that were not available, because we did not have a business continuity plan that would have said, in case of an attack, this is how we're going to proceed and provide services, be it manual or otherwise. So in the main, most of the services that we offer to the members of the public from the department are highly system dependent. And so as we modernize, as is instructed by the minister since he became the minister, and this has become a priority in terms of our strategic objectives over the MTSF period. This is the reality now that we have to battle with, that we have to rebuild the ICT infrastructure and modernize it. Now, as the one previous session, I think it was Honorable Janchi had mentioned that we're in a situation where we're fixing one engine whilst flying the aircraft. So this will be the case with our IT. And I'm dwelling much on it because much of the services, be it the master's services, the services that we provide through the courts, are linked to the ICT system. And part of our modernization plan in terms of the MTSF strategic objectives is to improve the delivery of those services. But third, the integrated justice system itself and the modernization of the whole justice value chain cannot happen if this department itself, as a core department in that system, is not modernized. So part of the plan is the building of the capacity, the infrastructure capacity of the department, both for internal and external purposes. Internally, to make sure that the department systems and processes are modernized. But secondly, for the purposes of service delivery improvement, the system becomes important. But thirdly, the interconnectedness in the integration of the justice system means that the department as a core department has to be at the forefront and has to lead in terms of the modernization. So this is the mammoth task that lies ahead for us. The second other challenge that I think I should raise for the past 8 months is my appointment. I've taken the time to travel the country. And I must say I've been to all the 9 provinces and I've visited a number of the courts across the country. It's the state of our infrastructure generally, the facilities, our courts and all that. And I'm sure many of you, as you do your work, you have come across these challenges. So it's not something new that I will be mentioning. The dilapidation, lack of renovation, and so on and so forth. If you go to a place in Philippi, in Young, I think in the Western Cape, you will obviously not believe that that place will dispense justice for it. Now, the challenge with our infrastructure is that we are dependent on our sister Department of Public Works and Infrastructure. We have engaged them. And part of one, at least, proposal we have made was that the financial delegations that we receive from the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure should be increased from 100,000 at least to 500,000, so that it can allow us to do some of the renovation without necessarily having to wait for capital projects. In some places that we have been to where we have projects that are supposed to be initiated, constructions of courts, the amount of time it takes just to initiate a project. In one case in the Eastern Cape, I think it was in Dujwa, when I asked the colleagues from Public Works there and said, if we want to renovate this court and expand it, and I was told just the approval, and that will lead us into a short tenure. On average, we're looking at 9 years. Now, Chair, in the majority of those cases, processes and proposals have been running for more than 5 years. And so far, there's no indication of what is going to happen. Just here in our backyard, at the Pretoria Magistrate Court, as you will know, that court had burnt down more than 10 years ago. More than 10 years ago. That court is operating in terms of the architectural infrastructure at less than 40% of its capacity. 17 courtrooms have been cordoned off. They are waiting for renovation. And we are told contractors were appointed almost a decade ago, 2012 and so on and so forth. But there are problems. You ask and you are told there's a discussion between Treasury and Public Works, and nothing is happening. So I thought I should briefly also just reflect on that, because COVID as well has just exposed that part of the challenge now. When we expect people to be in offices, as you'll know, Chair, the courts never closed in all the different lockdown levels. The state of our facilities, you just can't have officials working there, saving in those. In some places, the air conditioners are not working. But now with the challenges of electricity that we have with ESCOM, courts can't even operate for the whole day. So part of the backlog that we have also relates to some of these challenges, because we don't have generators in most of the courts. And as a project we've proposed now to Public Works, that we need to find a way of having generators in order to allow the courts to operate even when there's no electricity. But you go to the rural areas, it's not only about electricity, there's also a problem of water. And people who work in those courts, even judicial officers, they tell you straight, what are we going to do the moment we run out of water? The toilets and everything gets blocked, and the courts no longer become a place that you can say you will continue to function in. So there again, we have to wait for Public Works to agree to a proposal that we have boreholes, at least in the places where it is permissible to have boreholes. But Chair, further to that, I think generally the COVID-19 has affected the department as well, both in the courts where a lot of the work is done, but even in the other areas. But I think we will not use that as an excuse because everyone experienced it. But we just have to thank the colleagues that even when things were difficult under level 5, the colleagues continued, and some of the places that I visited saw the colleagues who are committed to serving the people as public servants under very difficult circumstances. And finally, Chair, one part I think that is known to everyone and the Minister has spoken to, the high rate of vacancies that we experienced over the past few years. We have made significant progress. At an executive level, we're only left with 2 posts to be filled. That's the post of the Chief Financial Officer, CFO, the Chief State Law Advisor. But in the main, the rest have now been filled. At the Chief Director's level as well, we've made significant progress. But I must say that when we came, the turnaround for filling of posts right at the beginning of the year will go to, on average, close to 4 months from the time that the post will be advertised to the time that a person reports for duty. And we sought to understand what was the problem in the system, and we seem to be having our fingers on the nerve and we on the pulse, and we are dealing with that. We are reducing it. Currently, we are able to fill a post at least in under a period of 3 months. That's why we hope that by the end of this financial year, we'll be over and done with the filling of posts. Now, Chair, as you will know, you'll see from our report, we developed a turnaround plan. Now, in terms of the turnaround plan, this is a long-term plan that is being implemented, but there's no time for us to wait for the full implementation of the turnaround plan and come back and say, now we're going to improve our performance. So we continue to fix the engine whilst flying the aircraft. And my colleague, as he presents, will show you the 8 pillars of our turnaround plan. And we think that, and we're beginning to see that if we work around those 8 pillars, surely we're able to improve the fortunes of the department. We're able to pull the department out of the woods. And we are convinced that as we continue to focus on the implementation of those pillars, ultimately we'll be able to have the department get out of the situation it currently is in terms of performance, but also in terms of audit findings. We were qualified as the Auditor General has indicated, but Chair, what we're happy about, we're not happy about the qualification. And in terms of the audit turnaround plan that we're doing and we're working on, we will be strict in terms of consequence management. And we know this is a point that you and honorable members have raised several times, and will be strict and will be able to come back and report to you. But what we're glad about is that even the Auditor General, he may not have said it to you, but I know they are online. They have not said that we have made significant progress in terms of our focus to deal with specific issues that they had raised previously. You will note, Chair, that in terms of the third-party areas, we have maintained a clean audit. And I know that's not the point. The point is about the vote. But also even in the vote, the main area of qualification came from the contingent liability, which, as we all know, contingent is not necessarily that there was a mismanagement of funds, but we do take the point. Equally as with our irregular expenditure, the bigger part of it comes from the previous, it's a contribution from the previous year, but this year in focus specifically, there has been a significant decline, and there are processes as well to make sure that there are consequence management. And we hope that by the end of this financial year, we'll have arrested some of the main contributing factors to fruitless and irregular expenditure. With those few words, Chair, with your permission, I want to hand over to my colleague, Terence Rasoroke, to take us through the annual report. Terence.
Thank you very much, DG. Very good morning to Honorable Chairperson and Honorable members of the Portfolio Committee. Chairperson, it is my honor and privilege to present the department's annual report to the Portfolio Committee, and I will take the Portfolio Committee through a number of aspects of our annual report. So we'll focus on the performance overview of the department for the year under review. We'll look at the organizational context. We'll focus on the audit outcomes, the strategies that we have developed to overcome the underperformance that we experienced. We'll also look at each program performance as outlined in our plan, as well as generally our budget expenditure overview. So in essence, Honorable Chairperson and Honorable members of the committee, we will reflect on key achievements and the challenges that we experienced as a department. We'll highlight the key issues that emanate from the audit outcome and the strategies that we've put in place to overcome those areas. We'll look at actual achievements and as well as share with members of the committee our financial performance. In terms of the general performance overview, we had 92 annual targets for the year under review. And out of that, we have achieved 61, which translate into 66% achievement. I also need to break it down in terms of the 5 programs that we have. On program number 1, we managed to achieve 40%. Program number 2, we achieved 81%. Program number 3, 75%. Program 4, 50%. And program 5, 67%. Honorable Chairperson, I also need to mention that we have actually made an improvement from the previous financial year in terms of our performance. As you would remember, last year when we came to the portfolio committee, we were presenting an annual report of 2019 that reflected 51% of achievement of our targets. But for the year under review that we are presenting today, there has been an increase of our percentage to 66, although I need to say, Chairperson, it is not what we want to achieve, but in actual fact, it clearly outlines the fact that we have actually managed to arrest the further decline, and we're actually in a process of an upward mobility of trying to improve our performance and maybe, get to a point where we reach an almost and above 80% as acceptable. Now, Chairperson, I need to also indicate a number of critical factors with regards to our performance overview. I must say that, Chair, although our performance slightly improved from 51% to 66%, we still have challenges that we as a department are still in a process of overcoming. But I must also indicate that the filling of the post of the DG, the DDG Corporate Services and the Chief Master managed to bring some stability in the department, at least for the past 16 to 17 months. Chairperson, we identified areas of improvement, which include upgrading of our information technology infrastructure, a robust audit action plan that is aimed at addressing audit findings, improving capacity through skills development. We are reviewing our policies and processes and aligning performance management systems to the strategy that we've put in place. So for us to address these identified challenges, we also developed and we are currently monitoring the interventions in this current financial year. We're also strengthening our governance structure so that we can be able to sustain what we are putting in place, Honorable Chairperson and members. So amidst the challenges of COVID-19 that we are all aware of, we as a department, we are focusing on areas of service delivery and modernization of justice services to continuously improve the provision of services to members of the public. We are also enhancing management efficiencies by means of strengthening internal management controls. We are also taking prompt and effective actions to prevent irregular and wasteful expenditure so that there is accountability and transparency in general. Honorable Chairperson, we all know as well that the lockdown restrictions impacted negatively in our lives and in the business that we run in different areas. And particularly in our department, it has impacted negatively on service delivery. The fact is that, Honorable Chairperson, there were backlogs that were created in the master's offices, the criminal case backlogs, and other services that we provide in our courts. That was as a result of the rotational system, which unfortunately reduced the capacity at our service delivery points. However, Honorable Chairperson and members, we are currently implementing measures to address backlogs while we are managing day-to-day service delivery needs. We are also intensifying our focus on service delivery in order to improve the lives of our citizens. As the DG has said earlier in his overview, the department developed a turnaround strategy. So I will just give a synopsis of the progress of the 8 areas that constitute our turnaround strategy. And the purpose of these pillars are clearly aimed at improving the overall performance of the department, and they are as follows. The first one is the alignment of our strategy to the identified priorities. Honorable Chairperson, the priorities and outcomes were reviewed and aligned through various senior management engagements, and our different plans are now aligned. That is the first critical thing that we had to do from a strategic alignment point of view. The second thing, we had to put together a macro structure. We had to redesign a macro structure. And the reason there, Chairperson, is that for us to meet our service delivery demands, we had to develop this macro structure that responds to our strategic intent. And it is now in the final stages of approval. We'll be ready to migrate to this new structure once approved, so that we realign and align the capacity and capacitate the organization so that we can be able to deliver on our mandate. The third pillar is the human capital and skills audit. We are conducting a skills audit in order to identify areas of development for all officials at different levels. And the sole aim there is to skill as well as reskill everyone so that we can all meet the demands of a transforming department. Now, on modernization, as Honorable Chairperson would know, that modernization is key in terms of our CAPEX priority. So our drive to modernize the justice services is central to these CAPEX priorities. And therefore, we have started working towards implementing various solutions which are at different stages of development in the current financial year. So we've identified different services that we are currently working on. Those services are your maintenance, trust services, deceased estates, protection order, expungement of criminal records, as well as the NRSO. So all of these services, we are in a process of making sure that they are electronic and they are online. Now, the other element or pillar that we have started working on is to reposition the Justice College. So our turnaround strategy to reposition and redefine the role of Justice College was developed, and currently the college is delivering different courses and some other engagements that are aimed at capacitating the college. And I'm going to mention a number of those areas that the college is focusing on. The first one, for the past months, the college has developed what you call EXCO Masterclass on Change and Resilience. This was done through the Gordon Institute of Business Science, that is part of the University of Pretoria. And the purpose of this engagement or this course was to ensure that we prepare our change processes, as we know that we're in the process of turning around the department. The second one is the Project Management Masterclass. It was piloted, and the first cohort of EXCO and MANCO will be commencing on the 16th and 17th of November. There's also on-board training for interns, and the induction and service excellence has commenced in response to the outcomes of the engagement that the DG spoke about earlier with different levels, particularly our junior officials as well as the interns at head office. There's also a course that deals with the cybersecurity awareness and training. It has commenced, and this one is also in response to the unfortunate incident that transpired in the organization for the past couple of weeks. That was a cyber attack. So it will actually assist us that we are ready and prepared and aware. We are also empowered, particularly everyone in the organization and our colleagues who are in the space of information technology. The other critical factor that the Justice College is engaged in now, Honorable Chairperson, is to create, develop, and maintain partnerships. The college and the National Prosecuting Authority are having engagements. And the purpose of this engagement is the revival and the reinforcement of the prosecution training within the Justice College. And they've identified a number of areas that the school will also look at. Areas such as the criminal prosecution, the civil training, administration and leadership development, etc. But also not only with NPA, the college is also engaged with the IPIT. There are engagements that is taking place, and the purpose there is to assist with training of the investigators so that we can improve the quality of their reports and so on and so forth. So in essence, Honorable Chairperson, this is basically what the college is doing as part and parcel of turning around this critical institution. The sixth pillar is the pillar we're referring to as change management and communication. Honorable Chairperson and members, I'm sure we'd all acknowledge the fact that as we're turning around the department, we need to create an enabling environment, and that for us to do that, change management becomes key and central to this initiative. We have conducted a climate and culture audit, and we are in the process of incorporating the recommendations of that audit to our turnaround program. And for that to happen, a decision was taken that a senior manager be deployed to drive this critical initiative of change management and communication. Now, in terms of the audit turnaround, the department have developed an audit action plan that is aiming or focusing on addressing audit qualification challenges and assist us to have sustainable systems and processes that will help us to avoid negative audit issues in the current as well as subsequent financial years. And within the context of service delivery, our intention is that as we implement all these critical pillars, we want to improve our our service delivery posture. So we have developed a service delivery plan. We have aligned it, and we are basically in the process of rolling it out to the identified service point. So, Honorable Chairperson, in terms of the organizational context within the period of the year under review, I need to report to the committee that for the year under review, the department contributed in improving access to justice by achieving the following. We completed phase 3 of the femicide watch, and the aim of this system is to monitor and track violent crimes committed against our women. We also completed new buildings in KwaZulu-Natal, Devon Point Family Branch Court, as well as in the Eastern Cape, the Dimbiza Magistrate Court. We also, I need to mention, Honorable Chairperson, in response and support of the fight against crime and corruption in various areas, including the issues around the COVID-19 PPP procurement and other related matters. We have actually established 6 new special commercial crimes courts. In actual fact, I must mention, Honorable Chairperson, that we have overachieved because in terms of our initial plan, we have exceeded the number. So the courts that we have established is 3 in Limpopo and 1 in Mpumalanga, Northwest, and Northern Cape, respectively. Now, in the current financial year, we are establishing further 3 new courts, and those will be in Mthatha, East London, as well as Pietermaritzburg. We will, Honorable Chairperson, also enhance the existing courts that are in Pretoria North, Palm Ridge, as well as Durban. I am asking, Honorable Chairperson, that the Portfolio Committee know that all regions in the country currently have the special commercial crimes court, which are currently operational. Now, in terms of our contribution in improving administration in the current in the year under review, I need to report to the Portfolio Committee that the department deployed cashless court solutions in 25 courts. We also developed, tested, and rolled out the e-submission enhancements for the memoranda as well as parliamentary questions. We implemented third-party management system, which we normally refer to as Moja Pay, in the 483 courts. And also, I must mention, Honorable Chairperson, that this solution also caters for the administration of financial management processes at the state attorney offices and has been implemented in all 12 state attorney offices countrywide. We also implemented the SMS notification capability in the domestic violence family advocate services. And these notifications, they notify parties on the status of their cases. We also updated Master's Web Information Portal to include case information for insolvency matters, that is your liquidations as well as your sequestrations. Chairperson, the other critical element that we have achieved in the year under review is the integrated justice system. In this area, we achieved what we refer to as the criminal justice system person integration. And in the year under review, more than 190,589 accused persons were tracked and 4,502 wanted persons could be identified and linked to the sub-circulations as persons of interest for other cases. Honorable Chairperson, we also achieved the Igs Case Integration. So a total of 371,593 cases were electronically processed via the Igs Transversal Hub using the Igs system integrations between the SAPS, NPA, and our department. Furthermore, Honorable Chairperson, the solution is now in operation nationally with these integrations that are connecting almost 1,144 police stations, and those are linked to our 509 courts across all 9 provinces. We also, I need to mention, Honorable Chairperson and members of the committee, that we also made significant progress on key legislation. We have introduced the following bills in Parliament: the Criminal Law, Sexual Offences and Related Matters Amendment Act, Amendment Bill 2020, the Criminal and Related Matters Amendment Bill 2020, as well as the Domestic Violence and Amendment Bill. There is progress on the development and amendment of key legislations. The bills are at various stages of development or amendment, and the following are the ones that are actually currently on the dashboard. Those are the Land Court Bill, the Promotion of Equality and the Prevention of Unfair Discrimination Amendment Bill, the Magistrate Bill and Lower Courts Bill, the Extradition Bill, the Insolvency Bill, the Criminal Procedure Amendment Bill, the Drug and Drug Trafficking Amendment Bill, amendment of Section 6 of the Constitution, repeal and replacement of colonial and apartheid era legislation, as well as the RICA. Honorable Chairperson and honorable members, the DG earlier has mentioned that as much as the department is in a process of turning around this organization, we are in a process of also dealing with the key challenges that we've identified. There are a number of challenges that we've identified, and key to some of those is the declining performance over the previous financial years, the negative audit outcomes, the high vacancy rate, as well as the aging infrastructure of our ICT, as well as the ransom attack that we have suffered for the past couple of months. Now, we had to put in place some interventions that are aimed at addressing these identified key challenges. The first intervention that we've identified that we are putting in place in terms of the declining performance, we had to strengthen our governance structures that are relating to performance information. We have established what we call the STRATCOM, or the Strategic Planning and Monitoring and Evaluation subcommittees of EXCO, with the sole purpose of dealing with, amongst others, development of plans, quality assuring of those plans, ensuring that our reports, being that quarterly, mid-year or annual reports, as well as supporting documents, are properly quality assured. We've also there are activities to implement the plan targets, and we are monitoring those on a monthly basis so that we put together corrective actions so that we address those areas of underperformance. In terms of the negative audit outcomes, because we actually got a negative audit outcome, particularly on the contingent liabilities, we have developed a circular that clarifies the roles of various stakeholders. And the purpose also is to ensure that everyone who is a role player is guided in ensuring that there is completeness, there's accuracy, as well as validity of information that we're dealing with. We also had to review the opening balances of the audited contingent liability register so that we can be able to remove all dormant cases which are older than 2 years. We're also reviewing all new cases that are added to the register in the current financial year so that there's accuracy, completeness, as well as validity. We developed an information shared drive to ensure that all the supporting documents are updated and ensure the validation and verification of information from all different stakeholders are accurate before they are submitted. So we've also established a contingent liability committee that is meeting on a bi-weekly basis, and it is constituted of different key stakeholders. In terms of the negative outcome, particularly with regards to the reliability of information that is reported. Honorable Chairperson, we have picked up that the key challenge that the AG has reported is that our reported information was not accurate when it's compared to our source information. And then that information was not recorded. So we have put the following interventions so that we can be able to address that particular audit qualification. Honorable Chairperson, the first thing that we're doing is we are reconciling the source documents against the reports so that we ensure that data that is generated by the system is valid, accurate, and complete, especially after this unfortunate ransomware attack. We're also putting together control reviews at service delivery points, and we're strengthening them. We're also ensuring that standard operating procedures are implemented and applied consistently in all service points. And our internal audit unit is conducting audits to provide assurance on the reliability of information that is reported. In terms of the high vacancy rate, I must indicate to the Honorable Committee that there has been an improvement of our vacancy rate. We, from the 9.6 in the previous financial year to 8.6. And this is below the acceptable rate of 10% as the requirement by the DPSA. So all our job evaluations have been cleared, and critical SMS positions are advertised and will be filled in the next months. Our department is currently auditing our approved staff establishment so that we remove those positions that have remained vacant since 2018 and they were unfunded as a result of the capped remuneration compensation budget. Honorable Chairperson, as I reported on the turnaround progress, the macro structure will further allow for the alignment of those vacancies that will decrease the vacancy rate because those duplications will be removed on the current staff establishment. And with the adjusted alert level 1, we have enough capacity in HR, and understanding is that we'll be able to process our recruitment, and that will gain the necessary momentum. In terms of the ICT aging infrastructure, the department has taken a decision to do the following: refresh the key infrastructure technology from a hardware point of view, do the same for the software, ensuring that the key infrastructure maintenance and support services are in place. And all this, we have made sure that we've put together necessary resources, and we are also in a process of ensuring that we procure those necessary services and resources so that we can be able to up and improve our IT environment. In terms of the ransom attack, it is unfortunate that in September this year, we suffered an attack which not only impacted on our delivery of services that are enabled by technology, but it has significantly had an impact in our program to modernize our justice services. However, with the support of the relevant state agencies and industry experts, we fortunately managed to restore certain services within the reasonable time. For example, we restored our case recordings, however, with limited features. So given the complexity of the issues at hand, we are gradually restoring other services as well. Honorable Chairperson, we are also making efforts to ensure that any service delivery backlogs as a result of the downtime is properly addressed. And in respect of the impact to the modernization program, we will ensure that we implement measures to catch up with the timeframes that we have initially set ourselves. And now, in terms of the audit outcome, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members of the committee, as we know that for the past few days, the AG presented the audit outcome to the portfolio committee. Now, in terms of the Department of Justice audit outcome, this slide is a demonstration of our performance in terms of audit outcome for the past 3 years. And very worrying is the fact that we have not been doing well in terms of our vote account and our performance information. However, in terms of the funds that are under management, the 4 funds, the Guardians Fund, the CARA Fund, President's Fund, as well as the third-party fund, we've been consistent in getting clean audits. In terms of the audit outcome, Honorable Chairperson, as we all know that the department received a qualified audit opinion on both the vote account as well as the predetermined objectives. And the basis for this qualification on the vote account was the contingent liabilities. And because the department, we did not have adequate internal controls to estimate the likely settlement amount for claims against the state. And in terms of the predetermined objectives, the focus was on program 2, which is our big and major program of court services. Now, it was found after an audit that the achievements that were reported in the annual performance report differed materially from the evidence, supporting evidence that was provided. Now, what we did, Honorable Chairperson and members, is that we have identified those indicators that we haven't done well or that we struggled to achieve in the previous financial year. And we had to put different strategies and interventions to ensure that we overcome that particular underperformance. And under program 1, I would like to report to the committee that we have put serious interventions to ensure that we don't have the repeat of the challenges that we experienced. Now, on the following indicators, indicator on percentage of significant findings on key specific areas resolved, we had to put together interventions that are aiming to address the audit qualifications for the implementation with clear timelines. Indicator on percentage of reported incidents of corruption resolved through the departmental disciplinary code and procedures for public service. There is a follow-up with employer representatives to expedite and conclude the matters at hand. In terms of the percentage of total MMS positions occupied by Africans and women, as well as percentage of total workforce positions occupied by people with disability, our HR component has already started with the recruitment process for those critical positions, and there is a concerted effort and focus to ensure that we have those, or we recruit those people that we have targeted to. In terms of the department's reconfiguration and structure implementation, we are ensuring that there is further consultation and alignment that is taking place in the current financial year. As reported during the turnaround progress, we are almost at the tail end of getting finalization of our macro structure. The indicator that deals with number of people that are trained per workplace skills plan, the HR unit has commenced and will continue to adhere to the lockdown restriction measures that are in place, but the indication in the plan is to ensure that they continuously train people based on the plans that are in place. In terms of the percentage of undisputed and valid invoices paid within 30 days from date of receipt, what we have done to ensure compliance, we have developed a circular that clearly outlines the importance and the criticality of paying the invoices within 30 days, even during the COVID-19 environment. And that circular was communicated to all members of staff. We also ensure that there is additional training to all our branches, the regions, as well as our offices, and the heads of various offices, the regional heads, as well as the heads of the branches, are now taking responsibility to ensure that the performance is increased to 100%. So we are ensuring that this thing is followed up on a daily basis and payments are addressed as and when they are presented. Now, in terms of number of sites where the audio-visual remand system is rolled out, I need to report, Honorable Chairperson, that the equipment for the rollout of the audio-visual remand system to the total of 18 additional sites was procured in March this year. And the installation was finalized in the first quarter of the current financial year. In terms of the number of sites where the virtual platform solutions, or what we refer to as the video conferencing, is deployed, we have procured the equipment for the 11 remaining sites in March this year, and we have finalized the installation in the first quarter. Honorable Chairperson, in terms of program number 2, the indicator that deals with number of additional courts designated in terms of Section 55A of the Criminal Law, that is Sexual Offenses and Related Matters, Amendment Act 2005 and 2007, in line with the 2018 Presidential Summit Declaration Against the Gender-Based Violence. We made sure that the Minister approved a list of selected courts for designation in terms of Section 55. Now, in terms of the number of facilities with term contracts for unplanned maintenance, we ensure that the specification for the appointment of term contracts for unplanned maintenance has been finalized, and the specification has been submitted to our procurement processes. In terms of percentage of backlog cases on the priority roll finalized, we are in the process of drafting the framework so that we reduce the backlog cases, and the consultation with all relevant stakeholders are currently taking place. In program number 3, Honorable Chairperson, particularly under the master's environment, there is an indicator that deals with percentage of letters of authority issued in trusts within 14 days from receipt of all required documents. In order to achieve this underperformance, we have done an assessment of backlog, and a plan of action was developed and is currently being implemented to deal with this particular backlog. In terms of number of research papers submitted to the South African Law Reform Commission for approval, we are ensuring that, and actually it has happened, that various vacant positions, particularly even the senior management position within that branch, were filled. And also we are enhancing or upgrading the technology that is used for the virtual meetings so that we ensure that we achieve this element, and also to ensure that there is improved assistance by the officials specializing in some areas. We are saying that we need to investigate that area so that we can be able to find ways of improving that space, as well as improving collaboration between internal units and external stakeholders so that we improve the quality of inputs. In terms of the Office of the Solicitor General strategy that is supposed to be implemented, the litigation strategy, Honorable Chairperson, was approved by Minister in the current financial year. And the expectation is that it will be submitted to Cabinet for noting during this financial year. And once the Cabinet has noted the strategy, what we are planning to do is to identify 5% of the activities of the strategy so that we implement that in the current financial year. In terms of number of heads of offices appointed, I need to report that the recruitment process is underway to fill the remaining positions. In terms of number of policies to implement the State Attorneys Amendment Act that is supposed to be submitted to Minister for approval, I am happy, Honorable Chairperson, to report that the following 3 policies were approved by Minister in April this year, and those are the State Legal Representation Policy, Management of State Litigation Policy, Alternative Dispute Resolution, State Mediation Policy, And the above policies were tabled and approved at the DG's JCPS committee on the 23rd of September this year. And we're expecting that it will be tabled in cabinet before the end of the financial year. Honorable Chairperson, as a transformation indicator, we have committed ourselves that the percentage of value of briefs allocated to the previously disadvantaged individuals of legal practitioners must be achieved. In terms of the report, you will see, members, that when I report in terms of those targets, we're actually running short of achieving our targets by 1% or so. So what we have done to ensure that we improve on this space, we have ensured that the business processes for legal services and the standard operating procedures are reviewed and approved in line with the State Attorney Amendment Act. And once we have implemented this, we will have no choice but to standardize our operations, the operations in the offices of the State Attorney. In terms of approving and implementing the State Attorney framework, what we have done is that we established the National Briefing Committee in all offices of the State Attorney. We have also developed the briefing standard operating procedure, and the bid evaluation has been developed and approved. We've also ensured that there is a memo to National Treasury for extension of exemption from Section 79 of the PFMA, and the framework contract has been approved by the Minister. So the process of appointing members of the bid specification and evaluation committee is underway. So in terms of the number of Legal Practice Act set of regulations approved by Minister, there are 2 sets of Legal Practice Act regulations that were approved by Minister in the current financial year, and those include private and vocational training and election. In terms of an indicator on governance structure to lead and coordinate the implementation of NEP, that was supposed to be established. We have ensured that the plenary session of governance structure is convened in December for the inaugural meeting so that we establish the NEP governance structure. So the members of this structure includes the departments of education, basic education, presidency, sports, arts and culture, police, corporate governance and traditional affairs, home affairs, social development, as well as DECO. In terms of an indicator that deals with programs to commemorate the 25th anniversary of the Constitution, so the implementation thereof, we have ensured that we have an approval of the program to commence the 25th anniversary of the Constitution, and there is currently initiatives underway to ensure that this progress is implemented so that this program can be realized. Now, in terms of number of policies that are submitted to the Minister for approval by the end of this financial year, we made sure that because the extradition policy was not submitted to Minister by the end of the current financial, the previous financial year, there has to be further consultation with stakeholders, and that consultation is currently happening. In terms of program number 5, which is our integrated justice system assessment report that was supposed to be implemented, we have made sure that the following activities for the recommendations contained in the evaluation reports are implemented during the current financial year. That is implementing 7 recommendations, crafting a clear and comprehensive plan of action, as well as monitoring the progress on the implementation of the recommendation. Now, that is basically, in essence, honorable members and honorable chairperson, of how we plan to mitigate, how we have actually put together mitigation strategies immediately after the end of the year under review. So there's been significant progress in different spaces, and we just want to ensure that we improve. We just don't leave things behind, because those were things that were supposed to happen in the previous financial year. Now, what I will do, Honorable Chairperson, with your permission, I will then move to the program performance report. That is our performance in terms of the set targets that we have set ourselves. I will report, Honorable Chairperson, on program number 1. And on program number 1, Honorable Chairperson, in the year under review, we have planned that the percentage of significant findings on key specific areas are supposed to be resolved. And our target was to ensure that 100% of those findings are resolved. It's unfortunate, Honorable Chairperson, that we only managed to do 25%. And the other one is percentage of reported incident of corruption that was supposed to be resolved through the disciplinary code and procedure for public service. Our plan was to do 70% of that. Unfortunately, we managed to do 27%. We have achieved the percentage of total MMS posts occupied by Africans, which we have far exceeded the 59% target to 81%. We struggled to achieve only by 1% on the appointment of African women. And I must say only 1%, Honorable Chairperson. So there has actually been progress. We just missed that by 1%. And in terms of the total workforce positions occupied by people with disability, the target was 2.2, and I must also say that we missed that by 0.1% as well, which is unfortunate. Honorable Chairperson, we managed to achieve the percentage of the rand value of our discretionary procurement for the EMEs and the QSEs far above our plan. The plan was 30, and we did it more than 100% at 71%. Honorable Chairperson, the issue of the macro structure had challenges because it was supposed to be finalized, but unfortunately, we are, as I reported earlier, working towards finalizing that. In terms of the number of people that are trained per workplace skills plan, we also struggled as a result of the challenges of COVID, the inability of our trainers to ensure that training takes place because of different levels of lockdown. The target was 4,000, we only managed 188. And if honorable members can remember that the first 6 to 8 to 12 months of the year under review, we were actually having serious challenges of the COVID lockdown. And in terms of the percentage of undisputed and valid invoices that are supposed to be paid within 30 days, as I reported earlier, the target is 100. We've actually done 99%. From where we're sitting, Honorable Chairperson, ideally we're supposed to be sitting at 100%. But 99% is an indication that we actually have put the necessary effort towards achieving the 100%. It is just by a percentage, but as much as that is very important, I need to acknowledge that the 99%, Honorable Chairperson, it's commended from where we're sitting. However, it's not enough because that 1% is also very critical. In terms of the number of biannual reports on the allocated CARA funds that are supposed to be completed, we have achieved that. And we have also achieved the the reports on the implementation of COVID-19 risk-adjusted plans. We've achieved the security risk assessment report. And in terms of the modernization initiatives, particularly on our justice service platforms. We have identified and planned to ensure that number of sites where the audiovisual remand system is rolled out. We planned 18. Unfortunately, we had a challenge in making sure that we achieved that. We managed to achieve the sites where we've deployed cashless court solutions. The target was 25, and we achieved exactly 25. In terms of the e-submission, we have achieved the e-submission for memos and parliamentary reports. In terms of number of sites where the virtual platform solutions, that is video conferencing, deployed, we have identified 12. Unfortunately, we only managed to do 1. Now, that was program number 1, that was focusing on administration. I will take the honorable members of the committee through program number 2. Our performance on program number 2, that was aimed at outcome number 3, that is increased access to justice. We have achieved our targets of the phases of Femicide Watch, which was supposed to be completed. We have done the phase 3, which is the Femicide Watch dashboard report published. We did exactly that. And we also ensure that number of unreturned criminal cases on the ICMS, which is our, is actually achieved. The target was to have less than 1,800.
You are muted, we can't hear you. DJ, is there any problem on your side? Members, can you hear him?
No, Chair, we can't hear you.
Can't hear him at all, Chair.
Committee Secretary, can you contact them?
Noted, Chair.
Members, this has been a very intense briefing. Can we reconvene at 20 past? Can we have a break for 7 minutes?
Sure, thank you.
Thank you very much. Can you alert them that we will meet at 20 past?
Yes, Chair. Noted.
Oh, sorry,
Hello.
my apologies again. No.
TG. Sorry, TG. We have since taken a break to allow you to correct any glitches until 20 past. I think you can also use that to correct any glitches or as a comfort break until 20 past. We reconvene at 20 past.
Oh, okay. I hope it's not the ransomware attackers who are trying to get back at us.
Let's pray. So let's pray and hope so, TG.
Okay.
Honorable Chairperson, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Thank you very much. No, I was saying I was on the slide number 51, so I will quickly jump to slide number 52. Honorable Chairperson and honorable members of the committee, we have actually achieved a number of indicators or targets that are aimed at increasing access to justice, except that we struggle to achieve on the number of facilities with term contracts for unplanned maintenance. We also, on slide number 54, struggle to achieve the target on percentage of backlog cases on the priority roll that was supposed to be finalized. In terms of crime and corruption, significantly reduced through effective prosecution. Honorable Chairperson, in terms of the number of dedicated special commercial crimes court, I've reported that during my initial presentation, and I've indicated that we have managed to establish 6. Now, in terms of program number 3, with a focus on transformed master services, we have actually managed to achieve our targets and actually overachieved the targeted percentages in terms of percentage of liquidations, percentage of letters of appointment, as well as percentage of beneficiaries. In terms of the percentage of certificates, we've also overachieved, and percentage of liquidation and distribution accounts in bankruptcy, we've overachieved. The only challenge was on percentage of letters of authority issued in trust within 40 days. Our target was 70. We only missed that with only 3%, Honorable Chairperson. We managed to also achieve our target on percentage of letters of appointment, as well as liquidation and distribution, as well as the number of policies that were supposed to be submitted to Minister for approval. In terms of the outcome number 5, about colonial stroke apartheid era justice related reviewed and repealed or replaced, we have managed to achieve, in terms of the number of bills and regulations, we planned to have 5, we overachieved by another 5. In terms of the number of colonial apartheid era, we overachieved as well. In terms of the number of rules of court submitted to the board for approval, we overachieved by 3. And we had a challenge in terms of the number of research papers submitted. We only missed that by 3. We had a challenge in terms of implementation of the General Office of the Solicitor General Strategy. We also had a challenge in terms of the number of heads of offices appointed. The plan was to have 11. However, we managed to appoint 6. In terms of number of policies to implement the State Attorney Amendment Act, we struggled to achieve that one. Honorable Chairperson, in terms of the value of briefs allocated to the PDIs, the target was 83. We only missed it by 3. And then we achieved the one on the value briefs allocated to female legal practitioners. And we struggled to achieve the one that is focusing on the state attorney framework contract that was supposed to be implemented. In terms of, we managed to achieve the target that deals with the percentage of reduction of capital amounts, overachieved by 6. And we also overachieved by percentage of high court matters that were supposed to be insourced, overachieved from 3 to 78%. And also the percentage of litigation cases settled, we overachieved as well. We also overachieved in terms of the legal opinions finalized, as well as preliminary opinions of draft bills and suggested bills and subordinate legislation that was supposed to be finalized. as well as the international agreements we achieved and the draft bills that were supposed to be approved by cabinet, as well as the translation that was supposed to be finalized within 15 days. We have established the legal ombud as planned, and we also ensured that policy guidelines on the conferral of the Senior Counsel status was submitted to Minister for approval. We struggled to achieve the number of Legal Practice Act set for regulations that was supposed to be approved by the Minister. We also achieved a number of activities on the NEP program of action. We struggled to achieve the governance structures that are leading to the coordination of the implementation of NEP. We achieved the funding model for the implementation of NEP. Honorable Chairperson, we achieved the number of anti-xenophobia campaigns that we conducted with other departments, as well as number of awareness sessions of the vulnerable groups and the intersectoral integrated national information system on trafficking of persons. We also achieved the number of trafficking in persons campaign in collaboration with other role players. We struggled to achieve the programs to commemorate the 25th anniversary. And also we achieved the review of set of regulations in terms of the basic education as well as the higher education. In terms of the social compact between the executive and legislative tiers of government, we managed to achieve that because we developed that. And we also achieved the number of country reports submitted to TICO for onward submission to treaty bodies. Honorable Chairperson, we also achieved the percentage of valid requests for extradition and mutual legal assistance. We struggled to achieve the number of policies that were supposed to be submitted to Minister for approval by the end of the financial year. Now, in terms of the program number 4, Honorable Chairperson, I know that the National Prosecuting Authority will actually present their full report as a program under justice. What we will just quickly reflect is it will be reporting what is currently sitting under our plan. In terms of the number of operational TCs in place, unfortunately, NP had a challenge in achieving that, but they also missed the target by only 3. And the rest of their indicators, Honorable Chairperson, they have actually achieved, except on the one on level of quality, except on the conviction rates in those complex commercial crimes, as well as number of persons convicted of private sector corruption, and also number of government officials convicted of corruption, and number of cases involving money laundering, value of freezing orders, as well as value of recoveries. But I guess they'll be able to speak through.
We can't hear you again. Mr. Mkiba, you are muted. Committee Secretary, can you contact them?
Good afternoon, Chair. Our apologies. The main system we're connected on experienced another glitch, but we're coming to the point on expenditure.